How many sound guys does it take to screw in a light bulb? I don't do lights, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming back and joining me for another video. As promised, I'm here to give you my #1 secret that's going to help you gain the respect and the admiration and the gratitude of the performers that you will be working with. This is something that I started doing in 2007 after I became the head engineer at the bottom of the hill in San Francisco, California. So I've had plenty of time to observe the results and see people's reactions to using this particular strategy. And hopefully this information is going to help you to become a more popular and more requested engineer. It's not about how to tweak an EQ or any like hypothetical perfect compressor settings that make things sound better. My #1 secret for anybody who wants a better relationship with the musicians or performers they work with is simply this: always give those performers clean vocal microphones. Virtually nobody in venues, or oftentimes even the larger regional sound companies, are actually cleaning the grills of their vocal microphones. It's especially a bad problem on the bar and small club circuit, where you will often find that vocal microphones are in horrible condition, and oftentimes the engineers are just too burned out to even care. You gotta keep in mind that this is the same circuit, of bars and small clubs where the overwhelming majority of musicians and engineers are working and performing side by side every day. It's nauseating to me to think about how much saliva and sweat and snot and beer and just horrible things that end up on the grill of a microphone that's never been cleaned properly. When you're on my stage, you're a guest in my home, and I would never in a million years invite you over to my place for dinner and then serve you food on a filthy plate. And yet every day in venues everywhere, performers are expected to use totally nasty, filthy vocal microphones that they're supposed to put right up to their own lips. So here's what I do at every Bottom of the Hill show that I mix. When the band or the performers are up on the stage and they're starting to set up their stuff and I go up there to set up the mics, I will usually explain to them, nobody has to be afraid of getting close up on the microphones because I take all of the grills off and I run them through the dishwasher at least once a week. Plus, I let them know I keep 14 Shure SM58s in the inventory and an additional 6 more screw-on replacement windscreens. That way, I tell them that nobody's going to share a mic on the same night. I'm going to give every vocalist their own clean microphone. So let me reiterate that. Nobody on my stage here shares a vocal mic on the same show. Now, if someone happened to get a mic from the night before and it smells a little bit funky or something, I can just pull it right down and give them a brand new mic or screw on another windscreen. It's not a big deal for me to sequester and take one mic out of the rotation until I personally clean it later on. So now, before the sound check has even started, most of the musicians are already like, dude, you're my favorite sound engineer ever, because no one's really doing this for them. And keep in mind, this is how they feel about me as their engineer now, before anyone's even played a single note. As soon as the sound check is done, I then take those vocal microphones and I hand them over to the individual members and let them, they can stash it in the handle of their amp or put it in their guitar case or whatever and hang on to it for the rest of the night, and it's their personal mic for the show. Then I get out a fresh round of clean microphones and put those up on the stand. And usually by that point, the support acts or the opening act is already in the room and they're watching all of this process unfold as they're setting up their equipment. So now they're already going to be psyched to get on stage and work with somebody who's an engineer that obviously cares about them. So once you start giving your performers these clean vocal microphones that I'm talking about, they start treating you like you're a rock star, because chances are you've probably shown them more respect and consideration than they're actually used to getting from a lot of other engineers. The side benefit that helps the quality of your mixes and makes your job easier is that when they're not afraid to get right up on the microphone because they're not imagining or thinking of all of the gross viruses and germs that could be on the mic, is that you'll have a better signal to noise ratio to work with. One of the most challenging things for any live sound engineer to deal with is trying to give adequate reinforcement to a vocal that's really far away from the microphone, and you're just picking up a ton of bleed from other sources of noise on the stage. So if you can convince them to get right up on the microphone because it's clean and they have nothing to worry about, it's just going to help make your mixes easier and better, and they're going to perform better. So it's a win-win for everybody. Now, I realize that not everyone has the budget available to keep a large inventory of redundant microphones, and not everyone's going to have, a dozen or more SM58s or whatever their preferred vocal mic is. But let's keep it real. A single windscreen, a replacement windscreen, costs about $8 US. That's retail. So virtually anyone could go out and buy a half a dozen more grills or a dozen more grills, and then just swap out the grills and not the entire microphone. But even just doing that one thing of swapping out the grills for each performer, it will gain you just as much respect and admiration as if you gave them a brand new microphone. So now, once you're in the habit of cleaning your vocal mics on a regular basis, don't just stop there. This is a really important thing to remember, is that you still have to handle the mics properly. Many occasions where I've been a guest engineer in another venue and I've seen, the house engineers who may have been helping with the load in, and they've been pushing dirty road cases or like lifting equipment, rolling out cables, and their hands are now dirty, and they will go and start setting up the stage, and they'll just grab a vocal mic and just palm it in their hand and shove it into the mic clip. Kind of defeats the purpose of having clean mics if you're going to rub your dirty hand all over the front of it. You'll never see me handling a vocal microphone that way. I always hold the microphone at the base, where the XLR plugs in, and I slide it into the clip in a very particular manner so that my hand is not in any way touching the grill of the microphone. And you also, in handling the microphones properly, you need to make sure that you're always seen washing or sanitizing your hands. Because if you sneeze or you cough, or you touch your eyes or your nose, or you're handling your own earplugs, anything like that, you want to be seen immediately afterwards cleaning or sanitizing your hands. You also want to make sure that you have hand sanitizer available in the sound booth, or maybe even also on the stage, so that people don't have to return to that same old fear that like a lot of touring bands have, where they're like, oh man, I don't want to get sick on the road because somebody like mishandled my vocal microphone that's right against my face. Am I overly cautious, bordering on a bit paranoid when it comes to this subject? Yeah, probably. But the truth is, the performers are going to pick up on these things both consciously and maybe even subconsciously. And if they know that you're giving them that much consideration, they're gonna love you for it, I promise. So if you're not already doing all of these things with cleaning your microphones and then also handling them very carefully, then you need to start doing it right now. And just as a little side note, I normally, when I'm touring or whenever I mix bands at big festivals, I walk in with my own Shure SM58S. So I've got a 58 with a switch on it. Many times I've gone out to the front of house booth at a big festival and I asked for the talkback line, and when they handed me their talkback mic, I said thank you, and I unplugged it, plugged in my own, and the house engineer kind of laughs and says, you bring your own talkback to a show? And I just usually say, when's the last time you cleaned your vocal mics? And usually the response is, oh yeah, good point, dude, can't argue with that. So there you have it. That is my number one time-tested, proven secret that is going to help beginner and some intermediate level sound engineers build better relationships with the performers that they work with. If you found this information valuable or intriguing or hopefully worth sharing with your friends, please do so, whether they're engineers or whether they are performers themselves. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, or you want to share your own thoughts or experiences on this particular subject, I would love to get a dialogue going with as many people as possible. In the meantime, let's just get back out there and make the next show even better than the last. Thanks.